Hey folks, it's Adam Lavelle from WrestlingDoneRight.com, the Pro Wrestling Noah and Major League Wrestling Network. The place to find all things Major League Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah, of course. I just completed the last season of Major League Wrestling. I just caught up with it, finished it completely, and I'm here to talk about what I saw and what I think going forward into the next season when it hits about a month from now. I'm chomping at the bit wanting to cover Major League Wrestling, but there's nothing really to go over until the new season starts except a season recap. So let's do that now. We're going to take a look at the roster of MLW, which I think is amazing. And I'm going to touch on what everybody's been doing for the most part. I'm not going over piece by piece, bit by bit of every ML Fusion over this last season. So relax, sit back, and enjoy a couple minutes of Major League Wrestling, a recap. Of course, we got the champions listed at the top of the MLW Fighters page, which I love. I love that they call them fighters. World Heavyweight Champion Alex Hammerstone, World Women's Featherweight Champion Taya Valkyrie, World Tag Team Champions Hustle and Power, also known as EJ Nduka and Calvin Tagman, World Middleweight Champion Myron Reed, and the National Openweight Champion Alex Kane. Spoiler alert, if you've not seen it, Davey Richards does defeat Alex Kane, likely in the first or one of the very first episodes of this upcoming season for that national title. Alexander Hammerstone, go over him first. He's right here. He is the MLW World Champion. He is an excellent world champion. I would argue one of the best world champions out there today. He is just a power horse, but the guy can go. I saw him defeat Go Shiozaki on two occasions, once in Japan and once in America. Now, Go Shiozaki is the 5-time GHC, that's Pro Wrestling Noah, heavyweight champion. Alexander Hammerstone is the real deal. He overcome all the odds. The story of this past season was Cesar Duran was coming after him. He wanted that title off of him. He did not like him representing the company for whatever reason. And Alexander Hammerstone beat everybody he sent after him, from Pagano all the way through any luchador or other type of wrestler that could come at him. He had an excellent match with Davey Richards along the way, which is absolutely must see, that he overcame the excellent technical wrestler Davey Richards to remain the MLW World Champion. Most of all, he overcame someone he thought was his best friend for quite a long time, a former member of the Dynasty, and that is Richard Holiday. Richard Holiday turned on who he thought was his friend, Alexander Hammerstone, when he joined up with Alicia Atut, someone we all thought was just an interviewer, just a commentator, if you will, in MLW, but no, she winds up hooking up in every way you can imagine with Holiday, and they run roughshod over the company. Cesar Duran gets behind them and gives Holiday his title shot against Alexander Hammerstone after Holiday had viciously attacked him on numerous occasions, including the original jumping from behind when they turned on him. And he successfully defended his title against his former friend Richard Holiday to end season one. Alexander Hammerstone, just incredible. We got Jacob Fatu. Look, this guy is one of the most talented guys to work outside one of the big major companies. And the only major companies I really consider major are WWE and AEW to a lesser extent. He's not signed by them. He was looked at by WWE. Numerous people will go online and say things like, I can't believe WWE won't sign Jacob Fatu. They did look at him. They passed on him. He was MLW's gain, and are we all ever better for it? Jacob Fatu, 280-pound man, the former MLW World Champion, the man that Alexander Hammerstone dethroned to win that title, can just go in every style imaginable. He's not just a big bruiser. This guy can fly. This guy can chain wrestle. This guy can flip and dive. He can do it all. Jacob Fatu is always a danger, and now that he's added his family to his faction, his new faction, he was the former leader of the Contra Unit, one of the most badass factions in all of professional wrestling for quite a while. When that dissolved, he started bringing family members in, and we're going to get to that. We're talking about the new Samoan SWAT team. But Jacob Fatu, as good as it gets. We've got Mods Kruger. Mods Kruger can sometimes be known under a different name, which we won't go over here, but outside MLW, you may know him as someone else. But in MLW, he works this gimmick quite well. He was brought in as an enforcer type of role for the former Contra unit, and when it dissolved, he claimed to be the actual real leader of Contra unit and went into a blood feud with Jacob Fatu. They wrestled every kind of specialty match you can imagine. They worked in matches that would scare most people to even look at, and they were something else. Honestly, they're not my style of matches. Everybody that knows me knows that I've got to be honest and say that. But that doesn't mean they were bad. That just means they weren't the type of match I most enjoy. But for what they were, over the top, extreme, hardcore as it gets, Jacob Fatu came out on top. But at the end of this past season of MLW, we saw Mods Kruger's rebirth, if you will, without his mask, looking scarred, looking all the more dangerous and worrisome as he makes his way back for the next season of MLW. We'll have to see what exactly that means, but this guy is always dangerous. We got Real One. Now, most of you know him as Enzo Amore. And most of you know that I could not stand Enzo Amore. And not just as a wrestler, not just as a gimmick, but having numerous friends in the industry, in the business. Some of them have told me horror stories about this guy. And to be fair, I guess that's not really good for me to just embrace them. Not that I want to call anybody that I consider myself friendly with as liars, but I'm going to give the Real One a chance to impress me in MLW, as so far he has. He's come in and embraced his reputation in his gimmick. I respect and like that. This guy's coming in because there are a lot of people that like this guy. He had a lot of fans as Enzo Amore. Let's not lie. He did. But instead of trying to come in and be the dancing, bubbly-headed goofball that he was in NXT, he's come in here as an arrogant, cocky bastard. He's come in here embracing his behind-the-scenes reputation, and I kind of like that. And he's working it. It's working out well. He's coming in here as an overconfident, cheating, underhanded slime ball, all the while getting on the microphone bragging about how incredible and amazing he is. It's working. I like it. I mean, a guy's got guts enough to get into an angle with Jacob Fatu. Smashed him over the head with a bottle at the end of this past season on MLW, and now looks to be going into a feud with him in this next season. Look, courageous move from the Real One, but through the last season, he beat numerous people: Casey Navarro, ACH, Lince Dorado. Now, he cheated like crazy. You know, his big move is picking guys up in a power bomb position and running them spine first into the ring posts and putting them out of action. It works. He's not coming in here being a world beater. He's winning by being underhanded and slimy, and it works. I like it. Good heel for MLW. We have Taya Valkyrie. She's impressive. I mean, this woman has won titles throughout the world for numerous different companies. Her profile is not clickable. I'm sitting here clicking on it to bring it up to show you. You can get the small picture of her there. You know her. She's been all over the place. She beat Holodead towards the end of the season to win the MLW featherweight title, women's title, the first women's title in MLW history. And she has looked good so far. She's got a host of challengers coming in, Brittany Blake being the newest one. So we'll see how this division goes, but I think they've got a good representative as its champion in Taya Valkyrie. We've got Davey Richards. Look, I just tweeted the other day that Davey Richards and TJP are just as good as CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. And I stand by that, and I am not a Danielson and Punk hater. I'm a big fan of Bryan Danielson. I'm not a fan of where he works currently. And I'm back and forth with CM Punk. I used to really like him, but sometimes his attitude, I think he crosses gimmick with real life too much, and sort of I find that somewhat annoying. But I know he's great. I know he's great on the mic and he's great in the ring. Davey Richards, while not an incredible promo guy, is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Spoiler, I already spoiled it earlier. He is the current national openweight champion. You will see that match probably very soon on MLW's next season, where he faces Alex Kane. But this past season ended with a terrific and amazing 20-minute draw between Davey Richard and at that time the national openweight champion Alex Kane. He also wrestled a match of the year contendership match, a match of the year contender with TJP. He had a match of the year contender with Alex Hammerstone. This guy gets in the ring with somebody, and instantly it's a classic matchup. What a score for MLW to have this guy working for them. Bandito, Bandito's profile's not clickable because he just makes appearances for MLW, although he is coming in here in September in Atlanta to face Alex Hammerstone for the World Championship. That will be a gigantic match. I'm not a huge Bandito fan. I mean, I appreciate him for what he is and what he does. I think he's a little overrated. I think he's pushed a little too hard. I was at the match in Baltimore when he won the Ring of Honor World Championship, and beating Roosh I thought was a little bit over the top crazy. I just think Roosh is bigger, better, badder, stronger in every way. But I'm not really meaning to insult Bandito here. He's a hell of a challenger. He's a hell of a wrestler. And his match with Hammerstone will be great. We got EJ and Duca. This guy seemed to come out of nowhere. I mean, I guess he was in WWE developmental at one point, as a lot of guys were. And this guy is gigantic. I mean, look at his stats here. He's 6'8", 290 pounds. The guy can talk pretty well. He's not going to blow you away on the mic, but he's not bad. He's impressive in the ring and getting better. He's a little green, but not embarrassingly so. He's one half of the MLW World Tag Team Champions, and that was his story, coming out of nowhere to beat 5150 for those belts by selecting Calvin Tankman, a guy that a lot of MLW fans thought was stalling this past season, not knowing where he was going. And then he pops up as the partner of Nduka here, and they win the titles. And so far, they've looked pretty impressive as champions, although they haven't had a lot of matches. They did beat the Boumaye Fight Club, Alex Kane and Mr. Thomas, and in a title defense, which was good. They won a three-way title matchup, but when they faced the Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall, and 5150 Hernandez and Danny Limelight. So they are looking good as the tag team champions. They are looking good overall. And Nduka, and here is his partner, Calvin Tankman. They are both beasts. They are both monsters. I mean, this guy's 6'2", 355 pounds. 6'8" guys, 6'2" guys. They are no small fries. They're not coming in here having anyone question whether they look scary or like professional wrestlers at all. Tankman, like I said, a lot of people thought was stalling. A lot of people thought just wasn't going where they thought he should be going, the way he was hyped when he came into MLW. But he quickly rebounded with this tag team title victory. And look, this guy can win any title he wants to. Seeing him against Davey Richards would be amazing. Seeing him against Hammerstone would be amazing. The same way with Nduka. These guys got tag and single matches stars written all over them. Anyone they face should be incredible. We've got Alex Kane, as I mentioned earlier. The season ended with him on top as the MLW National Openweight Champion, which he won in a small tournament after Alexander Hammerstone had to forfeit the title when he won the world title. I have a replica of the national title here. I like the world title as well, but I was a real big fan of how this title belt looks, so I had to grab a affordable replica, good enough to hang on my wall for these shoots. But no, Alex Kane is a suplex machine. He'll throw you back like to the Steiner brothers, that kind of guy. Just will wrestle you, will beat you down, will suplex you to death, hammer on you, work you over like a real wrestler, if you will. And he won the National Openweight title, like I said, in a tournament, faced incredible challenges from numerous people, from Myron Reed to Davey Richards. Didn't lose that title, but you will see that title wrestled from his waist by Davey Richards in the next season very soon. Sorry to spoil it, but I want to be up to date on this show on who the champions are. But Alex Kane is great. The Boumaye Fight Club is really fun, and without being silly, I like that he looks at it as a fighter camp. That's what the Boumaye Fight Club is. It's a fighter's camp where they train to kick ass, and that's what Alex Kane absolutely does. Great addition to the roster there. Richard Holiday. What else could be said about Richard Holiday except probably the most improved wrestler over the past several years? Not that he was ever really bad, but he was a second or third fiddle in the incredible faction called the Dynasty when he was behind MJF, when he was behind, in my opinion, Alexander Hammerstone. He was there, and I've always liked him, and I've always appreciated the AirPod God, if you will, which he seems to have drifted away from, which is fine. But he just didn't stand out in any major way. He seems sort of like an MJF ripoff, but he's not. He's his own guy, and he's proven that since breaking away from Alexander Hammerstone, which I think he needed to do, doing the heel turn, since teaming up with Alicia Atout. I mean, those two have a chemistry that cannot be denied. They are wonderful together. Court Bauer and others must have noticed that. They had to have noticed that in MLW and officially paired them as the clout couple, and they are annoyingly great. And I look for this guy to win some titles and really stand out even more as MLW goes forward into the next season. This guy can't be denied, and I appreciate that. Microman, you guys know my thoughts on him. We just completely ignore him here. We don't talk about the small stuff. We got Lindsay Dorado, who stops in and does a wonderful job since leaving WWE. We've got Myron Reed. Now, he's up there with Richard Holiday as one of the most improved wrestlers over the last number of years. This guy has been a star. This guy, I don't want to misspeak, but was he trained by A.R. Fox? I kind of think he might have been. Worked a lot of Glory Pro Wrestling as well. Was part of a group called Injustice, which at first I didn't like at all. They grew on me as a heel group. He and several other guys who aren't even part of the company anymore. It grew on me, like I said, as a heel group, as a really whiny, complaining, social justice warrior type of heel group. I thought that worked. But now he was picked up by Davey Richards. Picked up meaning he was invited into Davey Richards' training camp to fight with him, and Myron Reed seemed to be excited by that. He's a multi-time MLW World Middleweight Champion, I think 2 or 3 times, definitely 2, possibly 3-time middleweight champion. He has beaten Tajiri. He has beat more guys than I can possibly name. He has beaten M-Dog. He has Matt Cross. He has beaten numerous guys in title defenses and looked great doing it. He beat Shane Swerve Strickland as Strickland made his way from WWE to AEW. He made a pit stop at MLW and lost a title defense to Myron Reed in an excellent match, and probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest wins of Myron Reed's career there. But at the end of this past season, he turned on Davey Richards, joining the Boomeye Fight Club. That shocked the world, but I love it. I think this is a bigger deal than Injustice was. I think these guys putting themselves across as legitimate wrestlers that will take people down, wrestling them, outperforming them in the ring, and not just with their mouths, although they're good at that too, is a much better way to go than Injustice was. But like I said, I was never a huge fan of Injustice. I just came to appreciate them. But I am a fan of the Boomeye Fight Club, of which Myron Reed is now a part. Yoshihiro Tajiri stops in at MLW here or there from All Japan. Octagon Jr. doesn't have a profile on here, but he's a luchador. You guys know I'm not a giant luchador fan. Then how are you watching MLW? Look, it's fine. I don't have to love everything a company does to still enjoy watching the company. I just prefer straight up American wrestling or hard hitting Japanese wrestling to the overly choreographed likes of luchador stuff. But Octagon Jr., I liked how he's been presented. I like how he's been put over. I like that he seems like he's a solid MLW guy. I like that he's young. And I'm looking forward to seeing him work some different style of matches, even though luchador will always be his base, of course, in the future. Mance Warner. Those of you who follow me very well know that I actually have had it out online with this guy because I called him, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you ordered Stone Cold Steve Austin from Wish.com, that's just how he comes across to me. It doesn't even mean I hate him. I don't. I'm never going to hold a sign up for him. I'm never going to buy his merch. I'm not asking you not to do those things. I'm not out there calling people to boycott him or not watch MLW because of him or anything like that. It's just personally not my taste. These overly redneck, beer drinking guys that have been a dime a dozen since Stone Cold Steve Austin just don't impress me. I wasn't an overt Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, honestly, and I liked him better in WCW. I liked him better in the Hollywood Blondes. I'm not a big fan of the I'm going to kick your ass and drink beer guys. I'm just not. Again, it doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean they aren't worth watching and that I don't want them to get a job and make money in this business. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just not for me. The guy is solid in the ring. He's not green. He wrestles well. I just don't love this type of gimmick. I don't know what else I can say. The closest to this type of gimmick that I do like and appreciate is someone like Trevor Murdoch. But Trevor Murdoch doesn't carry a case of beer under his arm everywhere he goes, or spit tobacco juice in people's eyes, or anything silly like that. This guy's also infamous for wrestling in extremely hardcore matches I've seen him have his tongue stapled to a board and dollar bills stapled to his face and stuff. I don't know. Not for me. But I don't begrudge him having a job, even one in MLW. I really don't. Matt Cross, just the opposite of Mance Warner for me. Matt Cross is an extremely hard-working, well-conditioned, incredible professional wrestler. While being on the shorter side, he's only like 5'8", which is what I am, so I'm not making fun of him in any way. He is close to 200 pounds, and the guy can fight anyone. The guy can wrestle anyone. Again, saw him defeat the amazing, the incredible TJP in a matchup that is one of my favorites over this past year. They just went at it in a terrific professional wrestling match, and Matt Cross fought hard and won it. He's beaten other people. He's in line for title shots. This guy, don't mistake him for just being a roster member. Don't mistake him for somebody who's just a filler spot. This guy can be on top at any time, at any moment, and I really appreciate all that he does. I'd like to see him on the mic more. I don't know how good of a mic guy he is. Must not be great because he doesn't get mic time very often at all. Gangrel. Gangrel is great. One of the best workers out there. Don't love vampire gimmicks. I think they're a little over the top, but again, I get over it. I can get past it. I think he takes his vampire gimmick a little bit too far. When he's interviewed in the back, he's like hissing and making weird noises. Look, you can have a vampire fetish and want to base your gimmick on cool vampires, and I really don't have a problem with that. But when you got to start acting like you really are one, take it a little bit too over the top for me. But I appreciate him. I like that he's here. I'm sure he's teaching a lot of the young guys a lot of cool stuff. And his faction doesn't bother me. Horror, creepy, spooky factions aren't really my thing either. But if they're not teleporting or going to the undead realm or other stupid shit like that, I get over that too. Aramis is probably one of my favorite luchadors that I've seen so far in MLW. I just like his style. Again, the flipping, flopping, choreographed stuff isn't my favorite. But this guy, even under a mask and without much mic time at all, or any really, I can feel his personality. When you can wrestle under a mask and not do English promos and make me realize that you're pretty good, then you're pretty good. And Aramis does that for me. I can't really explain. You got to check him out and see what you think. Same thing with this guy, Ares. On the opposite side of the coin, we got the good guy and we got the bad guy. And Ares, if I'm saying that correctly, sorry if I'm not, he is the opposite. He comes out there, he makes you feel that, now he takes a little bit too much sometimes too, like growling and acting like he's legitimately a demon or whatever he's supposed to be. Sometimes I think that's a little bit ridiculous. You can be a badass that paints your face, Great Muta, and does some really cool stuff, Great Muta. I'm not comparing this guy to the Great Muta, I'm just giving you an example. Without actually trying to convince me that you're from the underworld or something like that. And he never really has said that I know of, but sometimes these vampire guys, horror guys, take it so far that it's a little bit eye-rolling, but I'm saying this guy's good, and I like him overall. I do. 5150. Some of the best heels in the business. I'm not going to enlarge this, no offense to any of these guys, because there's 3 of them in a row. Slice Boogie, Rivera, I thought that was Danny Limelight, and Hernandez. That they play a heel faction like no other, in my opinion. It's hard to cheer for these guys, not that I want to, but a lot of times when bad guys come into a company, they start getting cheers, they start selling all kinds of shirts, which I don't begrudge them making money on their merch, but they don't really feel like heels. 5150 feels like heels. They do everything under the sun to look like heels, speak like heels, wrestle like heels, and that Julius that they have with them, that's one of the most annoying guys in wrestling. And I don't mean annoying as in, God, I don't want to see him on my TV. I mean annoying as like, holy hell, dude, wow. The bug-eyed, loud-mouthed, never stops like he needs adrenaline medication or something. This guy is wild, and I like him. I like not to like him, put it that way. This guy puts this 5150 over the top. I like not to like that guy. I love seeing Lance and sorry, I often stumble on that last name. I don't know why. Love seeing him get a shot. I really do. I've seen him on the indies for years. He worked at Legacy Wrestling. He worked at Pro Wrestling Empire. He's worked at numerous companies that I've commentated for. I believe he's been at MCW Pro Wrestling. And now here he is on a bigger stage in MLW, teaming with Juicy Fanu. Love it. I love the old Samoan SWAT team. I don't think these two are quite on that level, and I don't mean that with any offense. I think they probably know that. But I like that they've taken the name. I like that they're probably going to gel better and be better as a tag team as time goes on. They just debuted right at the very end of the last MLW season. Them being associated with Jacob Fatu is only going to increase their notoriety and their worthiness, and that's great to see. And I can't put them over incredibly as a tag team yet. I've only seen them wrestle, I think, one match, but I think the potential is there for a new Samoan SWAT team. Whether they're as good as the old team or not, I still think it has a lot of potential. Savio Vega, hey, he's a vet who's been around a long time. It's nice to have him here teaching some of these younger guys. The guy can still go in the ring generally. He's not going to blow your mind, but he's not going to insult you either. When he's used well and in the right situations, I love him in MLW. I think it works out well. We've got Holodead. Holodead is part of the vampire gimmick. She's part of the Sangre, or it's like strange blood is the definition of it. Strange Sangre or something like that. She really looked like she was going to win the women's featherweight title. Lost to Taya Valkyrie in the end, but is still there making a lot of noise. TJP. TJP has been one of the best professional wrestlers in the world for quite a long time. I'm always, and I mean always, putting over his match way back at PWG 10, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla number 10, whenever he took on Kyle O'Reilly in a scientific match. I thought they called it that, or it's not a technical match. It was actually called something like that. They were going into this match letting you know this was going to be a wrestling match. And wow, I'm not saying that's what got me into pure wrestling, but it rekindled my love of it. And TJP as a heel in MLW is working wonders. And I love how he's a heel who doesn't cheat a whole lot, because you can do that if done right. He's his closest thing to somebody taking the gimmick that I've worked, and I hate calling it a gimmick because wrestling done right is just really how I feel. And I've ran with it, and I've pissed some people off. And I know there's a wrestler named Sean Carr out there, for those of you who know him, once told me that I was the biggest heel in Pennsylvania, and I was just a commentator. I was just a backstage interview guy. I wasn't trying to be gimmicky. I wasn't trying to be a heel. I just talk about the things I love and put down the things I don't like in comparison to what is wrestling done right and what isn't. And while TJP doesn't use the moniker wrestling done right, and he'd be welcome to it if he'd talk to me about it, which doesn't need it, but be flattering. It's as closest thing as there is in the world of wrestling to my thing being out there. He is a heel who doesn't need to cheat very often, hardly at all, because he's just a better wrestler than you. That's what it's about. He is a wrestler, and a great one. And he can compete with any style in the world, and his style, wrestling, will win out in the end. He does it perfectly. He does it wonderfully, and I absolutely love it. And he's up there. He's in the elite today, in my opinion. Not associating with some other company when I say that. Casey Navarro is a young guy who feuded a lot with the real one, Enzo Amore, if you will. Their feud over the past season was really good. Told a great story of the meaner, viler real one coming in and taking Casey Navarro out on more than one occasion. Casey Navarro being naive a few times working with him, finally coming back at the end and scoring a victory and looking hot. Okay. Ross and Marshall Von Erich, two of my absolute favorites. Before I put the shirt and tie on for this show, I was wearing one of my many Von Erich shirts. I think I own 4 of them. I was a big world-class fan. Now, believe it or not, I was a fan of Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez. I wanted them to beat the Von Erichs, the goody two-shoe Von Erichs, and shave their heads. But when they lost, I was so upset. Now that I'm 50-some years old, I appreciate the Von Erichs more than ever. I love those two as a team. They have been champions in Pro Wrestling Noah, which speaks volumes for me. They're the former MLW World Tag Team Champions. Look, going forward, my hope for the Von Erichs is that they not only hold the MLW tag titles again, but that each of them hold singles titles. Kevin and Kerry did that multiple times. They were tag team champions. They were singles champions. There's no reason Ross and Marshall can't do that. I think they're going to explode. I hope that they are. Pagano, just another luchador, and I don't mean that insultingly. I don't know a whole lot about him. He's good. He's scary. He's like a badass, crazy, hardcore shit. Came in here, had some good matches. Hammerstone beat him in a title defense. Ashley Vox, Delemy Exo. Don't know anything about these girls. I'm sorry. Mr. Thomas. I have seen him in Evolve Wrestling years ago. Big dude, badass looking, up there with Nduka in regard to how he looks. I could see those two having a big feud whenever Thomas is ready for it. Thomas is still a little green, I think. I'm guessing that because he doesn't wrestle much. I think when he's really prepared to go, him versus Nduka would be huge. But I like his role with Alex Kane and Myron Reed in the Boumet Fight Club. And I think the guy has great potential. El Dragon, I don't know a whole lot about him, although he looks like the one wrestler, looks like Zen Shi. I'm not saying that's him, but he looks a hell of a lot like him. He's good. He's a good luchador. Warhorse, I guess he rolls ass. I wouldn't know. This guy's not for me. Again, much like Mance Warner, I'm not begrudging him. I'm not saying he shouldn't have a career. I'm not saying he shouldn't be able to work in MLW. I'm just saying I don't know what that gimmick is. I think it's supposed to be a throwback, but nobody appreciates throwbacks more than me, and I don't see it that way. Maybe a throwback to the old WWE days when it was goofy and had a cartoon show. I don't know. Again, he is what he is. If you like him, God bless you. Not for me. Blue Meanie always makes appearances for MLW when they're in Philadelphia. Bud Heavy went from being basically an enhancement talent to being used more seriously on the shows. He's still far from a star, but hey, he worked hard, and he associates with all the people that Mance Warner once associated with. I don't know if they'll hook up at all as friends or partners now that Warner is back or not, but Bud Heavy is a solid worker. He's a throwback looking guy, and I don't mind him filling the role that he does, and I wouldn't mind if he stepped it up a little bit more. And Puma King, another very good luchador here. I'm wondering where is it Gnarls Garvin? Is that how you say his name? He's another sort of like a hillbilly type of character that I thought was pretty good. I thought he played. I'd rather see him than Mance Warner, to tell you the truth. And again, not begrudging Mance Warner's ability to work for MLW. Just in my taste, I'd rather see this big, sort of badass just beat the shit out of you, get hillbilly, than another beer drinking, hardcore guy. I don't know, maybe he's not in MLW anymore. I don't see his profile on here. But unless they had some kind of problems, I wouldn't mind seeing him back. We'll see what happens. But that's the MLW roster of their fighters that they have listed on their page. Yes, I gave you more info on some than I did others. But this last season ended with Alexander Hammerstone standing tall as the champion. Alex Kane struggling, but having a great match with Davey Richards, looking poised to soon lose that title to Richards. The Hustle and Power, great tag team champions, wondering who will be their next challengers. Will it be the Von Erichs or somebody else? Myron Reed joining the Boumet Fight Club, and a great move for him, I believe, trying to avoid the challenge of Davey Richards. But now that Davey Richards is looking to defend the National Openweight title, who will Myron Reed's next challenger be? Could it be Matt Cross? Could it be somebody like that? We'll have to see. And Taya Valkyrie, the featherweight champion, who she's going to be looking at as challenger. She, in her last promo, she basically said she'd take on anybody in the world and defend that title proudly. So we'll have to see who steps up. I'm a fan of Brittany Blake. Worked with her in Legacy Wrestling. She did a good job there. I wouldn't mind seeing her being a serious challenger. But MLW, Court Bauer responded to one of my tweets recently and said they're going to go back to their roots more of a sports style like they have always been, and that's why I love them. I have a video out on my other YouTube channel called Grading on a Curve, where I tell you why I'm bringing MLW Tonight back. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Just look for Adam Lavelle, Grading on a Curve, and you'll see that video. I guess I could bring it over here. We'll have to wait and see. But I wanted to kick this channel off with a current video other than my welcoming video, which I have up, as we still have several weeks until we're going to be to season 2. If I can think of anything else to throw on this channel while we wait, I'll gladly do that. Maybe a news section. That way I can keep you abreast with what Court has to say on Twitter and things such as that. But thanks for joining me for this. I hope you're a fan of MLW, and if you've not been, maybe this will convince you. And we'll be here every Thursday night, early Friday morning when I'll get this uploaded. I'll try as quickly as I can for a recap and review of all things MLW Fusion each and every week, except the small stuff. I'm Adam Lavelle, and I'll see you next time.